was told to deliver this message.
Assalamu alaikum. We're going to deal today with the Klandemic. Not the pandemic, but the Klandemic. Do you suffer from it? Do you know what it is? It may not be what you think it is, but we're going to go over some of the symptoms and the cure. Let's get it.
I was told to deliver this message.
Assalamu alaikum, family. I'm your brother, Landon X, and this is Nation Town TV Live. And as always, we won't be on long, but inshallah, we will be on strong. We're going to deal with the topic that you see in the caption and that you see right here. The Klandemic. The Klandemic. Be very clear, the Klandemic. Some of you may think you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. But we're going to get into it. But first, let me start off in the proper fashion. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who mercifully appeared to us in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad, the long-awaited Messiah of the Christians and the Mahdi of the Muslims. I further bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger, but let me be clear that I am speaking of the promised messenger of the Holy Quran for this nation. For the Holy Quran says that certainly a messenger would be raised for every nation, and that that messenger would speak the language of the people, meaning that he would be able to empathize, not just sympathize with the sojourn of that people. And if you do the math, you'll understand that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is at minimum that messenger, and I would know nothing of Master Father Muhammad, and I would know nothing of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad if it were not for the divine leadership, the guidance, and the teaching of this fantastic master teacher that you're looking at right here. This is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and those three great names. I greet the Nation Town family in the words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language. That is the language that you spoke long before you knew anything about the grafted, bastardized language called English. In fact, it's the language that you spoke long before you knew anything about the grafted bastard that taught you that language. I'm speaking of the Arabic language, and in that language, I greet you in the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Shout out to everybody chiming in, the Nation Town family. We see you. Definitely hit us up with your questions and comments, as well as just show us some love. Let us know that you're in the building, and I'll definitely try to hit them up. I see you, Sister Valerie. All praises due to Allah. Wa alaikum salam, Brother Robert X. Taylor. I see you, dear brother. I definitely see you. And again, this is Nation Town TV Live. We're going to get into the plan, or should I say the Klandemic. Klandemic. We are facing a pandemic right now in the world, and America seems to be getting the brunt of it. In a divine fashion, even. This is no disrespect or just lack of compassion for those who have struggled with the current pandemic or have even lost their lives, or the families of those who have dealt with the loss of life during this pandemic. But there's a Klandemic that's been haunting us much longer. And in fact, that same Klandemic is latching itself on to the pandemic as a way to hurt us even further. And I just wanted to get into that. It's a play on words, but I'm not playing. I put it like that. Shout out to Brother Hakeem. I see you chiming in, dear brother. I trust you got your package today. I tracked it, and it said it was delivered this morning. All praises due to Allah. And speaking of which, this is Nation Town TV that is brought to you by NationTownStore.com. Shout out to all of our NationTownStore.com supporters. I can't say it enough. 2020 was the best year for NationTownStore.com by far, and 2021 looked like it's about to run up on 2020 quickly and snatch that title. And that's only because of Aboriginal people who understand the value of supporting their own, and also like to taste the sweet bean pie and like buying personal care products from their own people. And I just want to remind you, family, we are constantly adding to our personal care product line, and now we have that solid deodorant, and we about to go even further on the personal care product universe, I guess you can say. Black owned, black distributed toilet paper, as well as paper towels coming soon. That'll be online this week, so just keep an eye out. We're also, for my YouTube family, keep in mind that every YouTube video that we post from now on, in the description there will be a promo code, a coupon code for you to save at NationTownStore.com. But you got to go to YouTube, you got to subscribe, and then check the description of the video, and you will see that coupon code, and you'll be able to save some money. Make sure you go to YouTube and subscribe to Nation Town TV on YouTube. And this is, of course, also brought to you by DoForSelf.net, a online learning annex that we're also about to upgrade very soon with new interviews, new videos. It's a learning annex, so you can learn things like just give you some tips on stealing away from your day job, We've been talking about, so it seems like everybody and their mama talking about cryptocurrency lately. We've been talking about it on doforself.net for about 6 months now. So make sure you hit that up. It's 100% free. 100% free. It ain't no scam involved unless you're scamming yourself by not going. So make sure y'all check that out. But let's get right into it. Like I said, I do not want to be on long, but inshallah, I will be on strong. So let's get right to it. Make sure you hit us up on Cash App at $Nationtown. Keep in mind that 10% of all Cash App donations go directly to Yes Ma'am Meal and a Message, where we deliver not only meals but also personal care products from Nationtown store to Los Angeles residents in need, and inshallah we'll be expanding even to non-Los Angeles residents in the very near future, if it be the will of Almighty God, Allah. So we're going to jump right into it. Again, shout out to everybody chiming in. We see you. Hit us with your questions and comments. But let me pull the veil off of this. Y'all know sometimes I like to come with some questions, with some mystery topics. What do I mean by Klandemic? Some of y'all might have jumped the gun and thought, oh, I'm talking about just white people in general. Actually, no. I'm not talking about just their existence, their physical existence, the fact that they're breathing 60 to 100 times per minute, just the fact that they're under the sun just like we are. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about their existence between our ears. And we're going to go into some symptoms, because here's the thing about the Klandemic that makes it so deadly. And we've been suffering from it for about 400 years. But what really makes it deadly today in 2021 is the fact that the Klandemic, just like COVID-19, has mutated. It's mutated to the point where some of our best and brightest, some of our smartest, some of our wokest black folks and Aboriginal folks are carrying the disease and don't even know it. You may even consider it being asymptomatic. And asymptomatic is when you have a disease but you show no symptoms of it, or you appear to not have symptoms of it, or you think that the symptoms are connected to something else. But the thing about a asymptomatic disease carrier is that they are just as likely to infect someone else with that disease if it's contagious or if it's transmittable in any kind of way, whether they're showing those symptoms or not. HIV/AIDS is like that. You could be not showing symptoms all day, but if you engage in sexual contact or blood transfusion, you can absolutely give someone HIV and AIDS. Make sure y'all hit us up. Questions and comments. But, you know, I want to help y'all out. Now, I'm not claiming that I'm 100% free of this disease, but we're going to go into a few major symptoms, a few major things that might let you know that you might have that your Klandemic might be acting up, that you might be dealing with this Klandemic. You know, I'm laughing to keep from screaming, but like I said, this is probably the worst scourge, the worst disease for the Aboriginal man in the wilderness of North America in the last 400 years, because it can actually lead to other physical and mental diseases. So let's jump into it. I see you, Sister Linda. Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. Let's get into it. First of all, I mentioned a word, and I want to make sure you understand that word. So let's clear this word and deal with it. I said asymptomatic. Now, asymptomatic in medicine is a disease, as actually it's in medicine, a disease is considered asymptomatic if a patient is a carrier for a disease or infection but experiences no symptoms. A medical condition might be asymptomatic if it fails to show the noticeable symptoms with which it is usually associated. But check this out. An asymptomatic person may experience symptoms later, or they may never show them. During a disease outbreak, an asymptomatic carrier of disease can still spread the disease and not even realize it. This is why it's so important for people to practice social distancing and stay home amid the coronavirus pandemic. So to have a disease and to not know it and still be able to spread it to others, that's what makes being asymptomatic so dangerous. Now, let's talk about being a carrier of a Klandemic. Well, let's deal with it. As many of you may or may not know, they say that the ground zero, or the beginning point of the coronavirus, the COVID-19 as we know it today, was via a infected bat. A bat, you know, like batty, a bat. Well, how did the Klandemic start? The Klandemic started not by a bat, but by a snake. A snake that has wrapped itself like an anaconda all over the world. What you're looking at right here is an image from a cartoon that was found in the Muhammad Speaks newspaper, which was the paper that preceded the final call prior to 75. And as you can see, the actual tail of this snake is wrapped around the entire world. You see it in Africa, you see it in Europe, you see it in North America, Central America, South America, Australia, Asia, all over the world, even the Pacific Islands, all over the world. A serpent. This is how it began. The Aboriginal people of this earth were bitten by a serpent. Like I said, this is not necessarily about the Caucasian. Because once you're infected with a disease, you can be mad all day at the person. If you know who it was that infected you, you can be mad all day. But what is that going to do about your condition? If somebody contracts an STD, you can be mad all day about the woman or the man that you think gave you that STD. But at some point, you got to go to the clinic and deal with it. Well, let's deal with the symptoms so we can kind of self-test ourselves to see either if we have it, or if you do, how far along are you? Is it full blown? We're going to find out. Shout out to everybody chiming in. So I'm going to go over a list of very quick symptoms so you can know whether or not you are positive for the Klandemic. The Klandemic, let me be clear, is a mental disease, a mental, perhaps even a spiritual disease that the Aboriginal people in North America clearly suffer from. Now, a lot of people are going to watch this and just assume, nah, I'm good. I read this book or that book. I read Message to the Black Man. I follow this scholar on YouTube, that scholar. I follow the minister. I follow this guy, Ben Yakinen, this guy, that guy, this, that, and the other. Well, like I said, there are a lot of people walking around with diseases and don't know it. With different conditions and don't know it. Some people are walking around on the verge of a major deadly disease and don't know it. One more bag of chips and boom, they're a cancer patient. Another one more cigarette and boom, they have lung cancer. They don't know how close they are. So let's make sure that we know our condition, our mental condition as Aboriginal people in the hills of North America. Let's jump on that first. And I'm gonna tell you, the symptoms are gonna get a lot more serious as we go down the line. It won't be that many, but let's get into it. The first one is pretty clear. You might be positive for the Klandemic if you are a KV chaser. A KV chaser. What is a KV chaser? I'm sure you know what a KV chaser is. Well, they got something in real estate history called white flight. White flight. That's where in a neighborhood that, was historically Caucasian, when they noticed a certain amount of Aboriginal people moving into their community, a lot of times white folks get up and get the hell on. And they call that white flight. But the thing about white flight is that we will chase them. Not out the hood, but we will chase them wherever they go. In fact, we will consider or measure our success based on how close we get to them. When we step outside of our house and we look left and right, the more white people we see, the more successful we are. Do you chase cavies? Do you think when it comes to products, when it comes to anything, that white is always right? And if it's black, send it back. Do you have that mentality? If you do, you might be a cavie chaser. You might have the kind of mentality that 30% of the population that was dissatisfied that led to Yakub coming into power. You might have that mentality when you always narrow things down to race when it comes to an opportunity to speak negatively about black people. But when you run into a situation where it's a clear opportunity to speak just as negatively about your enemy, you forego it. For example, if you live in a so-called black community, we don't have that many black communities these days. Most of them are colonies. But when you live in a black community, you might hear gunshots at night. And there might be one person letting off an AR-15 in the neighborhood that's 70, 80% hard-working, law-abiding black people. But you'll hear that one gunshot and say, man, I got to get the hell up out of here. These niggas are crazy. But then you turn on the news and you see something that's crazy going on in politics. You hear about 4 or 5 school shootings. You see America invading entire nations, and then you pick and choose a political party or a certain politician, a certain president. That one's bad. This one's bad. You go into a white-owned business. They mess up your order at this white-owned restaurant. You want to blame the manager or that employee. You don't blame it all on white-owned businesses. If you're a cavie chaser, you might, as Sister Linda said, we suffer from the illusion of inclusion. I wouldn't even call it the illusion. It's an actual disease, because they'll include you. Trust me, they'll include you. They'll call you in. We were very much included in slavery. We lived on the same land that they lived on. Some of us worked and slept in the slave house, usually in the attic or in the basement. But they'll include us. But what is our status in their world? What are they doing with us when we come into their world? So it's the disease of inclusion. I mean, let's be real. If you found out someone at your job had COVID-19, or hell, if they had a disease that wasn't even transmissible by, a call for a sneeze. I still remember watching the NBA All-Star game, and it was the first game that Magic Johnson played after announcing that he was HIV positive. There were players like Karl Malone that didn't play at all and claimed that they didn't want to play. Charles Barkley was nervous. A lot of the players didn't even want to guard him, even though AIDS and HIV are not diseases that you're going to get by guarding somebody on the basketball court. See? But that's the mentality that we have. But when you know somebody has a communicable disease, you want to get away from them, right? But we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's keep it moving. Shout out to everybody chiming in. If you're a cavie chaser, you're absolutely positive for the Klandemic. Here's another one. Here's one you see in the entertainment industry, but you also just see it overall in business in general and really in everything. Do you still believe in the mainstream myth? Mainstream myth. You have Black and Aboriginal people who honestly believe that their success is almost exclusively measured by white validation. They even think that white money is greener than everybody else's money. You got people that really think, you got black folks that really believe that. You have artists in hip hop and R&B who will go platinum before any white person is screaming their name, before any of these morning talk shows are calling on them to be a guest, or before any of these late night talk shows are calling on them to be a guest. They'll go platinum. They'll sell millions of records before any of them call their name. But then they tell themselves, oh, I got to go to the next level. What is the next level? And we think it even on a smaller scale. We think that, again, white is right, and if it's black, send it back. So when you look at the mainstream myth, now that once upon a time they had something called the Chitlin Circuit in entertainment, where you were going from city to city doing little black, joints, little, what they call them, juke joints and all of that. And there was a time when certain businesses catered specifically to black people. But what's the problem in that? Especially when you build up a relationship with your clientele, that Johnson & Johnson or some major company, some major grocery store, some major restaurant, that they can never duplicate. What's the problem with staying on that level and then being a master of one trade instead of being a jack of all trades and a master of none? A lot of us make a terrible decision of trying to always get that white validation in business and entertainment, and usually that will spell the end of that business and the end of that person's career. When you see them overreaching for white validation, the mainstream myth, a lot of us have that. A lot of us, when we start rapping, singing, or even start a business, we dream of white people walking in the store. Why? Why? Don't say that they spend more money. They don't. You know who spends more money than anybody? You know who spends more of their own money than anybody in America? Look in the mirror. You. As a business, you want the biggest spenders in your door. That's why no matter how broke and how poor you think the black area of your city is, that never stops white, Korean, Armenian, Arabs from opening up businesses. Why would they risk their life? Why would they risk the high crime rate in some of the worst neighborhoods to open up a gas station there when they can open up a gas station anywhere? Why there? Because you are the top spenders in America. You have absolutely no discretion with your money. So they want to catch it because you are low-hanging fruit. So if you have that, if you believe in that mainstream myth, then you absolutely may be a victim of the Klandemic. Shout out to Sister Nabia Shakur. Wa alaikum salam. She says, Assalamu alaikum family, watching from Cedar Hill, Texas. Shout out to Texas. Straight up, I see you, Brother Jaquez. Says, true indeed, all praises due to Allah. Now we starting to get kind of tough now. Those were the softballs. Those are the softballs. I probably didn't make nobody mad. You probably cleared those first couple and was like, oh man, whew, I'm cool. I'm straight on the Klandemic. I'm free and clear. Yeah. But now we're going to get to the tough side of the symptoms. This is the portion of the program where you might go to WebMD and start typing in your symptoms to see what you got. I know I ain't the only one that did that before. This is the part where you're going to get kind of nervous. Now this next one, let me set the table for it. I saw a meme on social media that I found to be repulsive. I understood the sentiment of it. It was posted, I'm assuming, by a black person, and I understood the sentiment, but it just wasn't rooted in reality. And it showed me that this person might be a victim of the Klandemic. And y'all probably seen it before and you may have agreed with it. If you agree with it, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a victim of the Klandemic. But here's how the meme went. The meme was It says, stop telling black children, stop telling smart black children that they're acting white. On the surface of that, I agree. On the surface, to tell a child that if they bring home good grades, oh, you acting like a peck of wood. Now, I personally never seen, I went to so-called hood schools my whole life. I never experienced going to a school that was considered prestigious or respected until I went to college. And I was only in college for 15 minutes. But every school I went to, from kindergarten to high school, was considered that school that nobody wanted to send their children to unless they had to. But I never heard, I'm talking about hood schools, I never heard somebody tell a young brother or a young sister that you're acting white because you made the honor roll. You might be called a geek or a nerd or a weirdo, but wouldn't nobody say that that's whiteness because you studied for your test. But here's something else that I noticed. And those same people who would agree with that, they also assume. Now, because the way we communicate is very important. Communication is extremely important. That's why we do Nation Town TV. But there are people who assume that talking white is talking right. Enunciating your verbs, being able to speak more than 400 words considered well, being able to speak in a way that is clear and understandable and respectable and professional, that's automatically talking white. There is such thing, ladies and gentlemen, as white dialect and white slang. And some of your favorite white people speak with white slang. And when I see black folks just assume that talking white is talking right, it boils my blood. For example, if I got on Nation Town TV today saying, hey, what's going on, man? Like, we're gonna talk about, like, so, like, all right, it's like a Klandemic, you know, it's like a play on words, you know what I mean? If I came on talking like that, am I speaking proper English? Am I speaking proper English, putting like, this conjunction in between every syllable? Show me an English book that tells you that that's the way to talk. Show me an English professor that would give you a positive grade if you wrote an essay and in between every word you put the word like. And you were abbreviating words to try to be cool. Instead of saying situation, you said sitch. Instead of saying details, you said deets. Show me an English professor or English textbook that would approve of that. That is not talking correct English. That is talking white. If you do not realize that, you might be suffering from Klandemic, because you turn on your TV and you hear a dialect and you see a face and you see a skin color. You put those together and you say that's the right way to go. That explains why we wear some of the clothes that we wear, why we shop at some of the stores we shop. I mean, look at some of the clothing brands that we wear and that we spend all our money on, money that we really don't have. Very few of them, if you go to their advertisements, will you see somebody modeling that looks like you. And that's by design, because they know black folks want to see a 47-pound white girl wearing that shirt. And that make the 147-pound sister want to buy that because she see a 47-pound white girl with stringy, weak bone hair dangling off her head. That makes that sister want to buy it. Because we think everything that's white is right. So when it comes to the language and the dialect, Now, I'm not just going to leave you with that and not prove my point, because there are plenty of black men and women who speak near perfect English. But as soon as you hear them, you know you hearing a brother or a sister. We'll start with this brother over my shoulder, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You cannot tell me that this man is not a master of the English language. You cannot tell me. I used this photograph because I just wanted to show off my Western Regional student captain holding post for him right there. He was about 20-something years old at the time. He still looked the same way, same freckles on his face. You know what I mean? All praises due to Allah. Shout out to Brother Halim, Brother Student Regional Captain Halim Muhammad. But you cannot tell me that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is not one of the most articulate men that you have ever heard in your life. You cannot tell me that Dr. Martin Luther King is not one of the most eloquent, articulate men. His voice, his cadence that he speaks with is almost musical. Him and the minister, it's musical. It moves you just in the way he pronounces a word. Just the way his tongue wraps around a sentence, it moves you. And if you don't understand these men, you can't understand nothing. But you cannot say that they are not masters of the English language, but you also cannot claim that they talk white. Malcolm X, this man had no education, was a pimp, a drug dealer, drug user. But when the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was done with him, you could not tell that he did not graduate from an Ivy League college or from Morehouse or Howard or somebody. Somebody had to teach this man. Now, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad himself, he had that thick, deep, red clay Georgia accent. But if you listen to his words, you could not accuse him of not being a master of the English language. And then the legacy continues. When you look at some of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's best students, same thing. You cannot say that they have not mastered and they don't fully understand the English language. But you will never hear somebody like Student Minister Nuri Muhammad or our Western Regional Student Minister Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad and claim that they're talking white. When they'll throw 4-5 syllable words at you, he's sending you straight to the dictionary. But you cannot accuse them for sounding white. But this is important. You might think this is minor, but this is extremely important. Because again, we're talking about a disease. And the disease, understand this, family. When they test you for a disease, what are they looking for? Other than symptoms. They can't go off the symptoms alone. That's why if you go to WebMD right now, they'll tell you what the symptoms to colon cancer is. They'll tell you what the symptoms to COVID-19 is. They'll tell you the symptoms, but there'll be a little disclaimer at the bottom that says, if you are suffering from any of these symptoms, please consult a doctor as soon as possible. Because what the doctor's going to do, they're going to take blood work, or even a saliva sample or a urine sample. And with that sample, that blood work, that urine or saliva, they're going to focus on the smallest of cells, the smallest of microorganisms to try to determine if you are positive for that disease. So you might think the way we talk means nothing. The way we talk doesn't really matter, but how do you perceive that? If somebody walks in the door and they're saying, and they black as Ace of Spades, and they say, oh my God, like, and I went to the store, and you think, oh, they speak well. And when I hear that, I think the same thing as when a brother walk in the door, you know, sounding like he fresh out the projects. That doesn't mean he's not intelligent. Doesn't mean he's dumb or smart. But it does mean he's not using proper English. And I feel the same way about him, and I feel the same way about Brad, the surfer dude. So the way you hear it and the way it sounds, you know, the way you take things in can always be a symptom of a disease. Like one of the major and most common symptoms of COVID-19 is the loss of taste or smell, meaning that you can't take things in the way you normally should. So let's move on. I told you it's getting a little controversial as we go. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Sister Valerie Muhammad said, wow, look at Captain Halib. That's right. Brother Todd Hinton says, Elijah Muhammad said, don't listen to how I'm saying, listen to what I'm saying, and you take it and you put it in that fine language that you have. Absolutely. When you read the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's writings, you know, dialect doesn't translate to writing. To me, that's how I can tell the intellect of a person when they start writing. And I'm not talking about their handwriting. Some of the smartest people in the world have the worst handwriting. My handwriting's terrible. Most prescriptions, if you ever looked at a prescription sheet that a doctor wrote, it looked like hieroglyphics. But when you read the words that a person has transcribed, that tells you their actual, if you're dealing with a person who understands the English language. And if you read the big 5 books that I call the big 5 of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Message to the Black Man, How to Eat to Live, book 1 and 2, Our Savior Has Arrived, and Fall of America, you cannot go through there and say, oh, this is improper English. No, it's the best of English. Not only the way it looks, but what it's saying. But moving along. Like I said, it's about to get, and then another one. I almost forgot one. Now this is a man who was raised by white folks. Grew up in Hawaii. It didn't have too many black people. But even when you hear this brother, you can't accuse him of trying to talk white. But he is absolutely articulate. One of the most articulate men that you have ever heard. Regardless of whether you voted for him or what you feel about what he did as president, he is extremely articulate, but it's never a doubt in your mind that you're listening to a black man speak. Now let's move to the next one. Now this is dealing with economic. This is an economic symptom right here. Do you suffer from Habu? H-A-B-U. H-A-S-U, depending on how you want to put it. I'm going to give y'all a moment to see if y'all know what this is. This is an economic symptom. H-A-B-U. The H-A-B-U condition is the hook a brother up condition. You might suffer from Klandemic if you take pride in how much money you spend with your enemy. You even brag if you spent thousands of dollars and put it in the pocket of your enemy. But when you come to a black-owned business or to a black establishment, you looking for that hookup. And you will even drag that brother or sister's business around in the dirt if they didn't hook you up. But then it's the exact opposite. When you spend $300 for a pair of Nikes that only cost them $10 to produce, when you buy a diamond chain that not only is not really worth what you paid for, but it was mined out of Africa and blood was spilled. Africans were turned against each other to murder each other in order for you to walk around with that diamond necklace on, and you brag about it. But when you go into a black establishment, you want the hookup. If that's your mentality, you suffer from the Klandemic. You absolutely suffer. If you have the hook a brother up mentality, the hook a brother up would mean, brother, you know, give me the best of what you got, and I don't care what the price is. That's the hook. That's the real hook a brother up mentality. But when you got this idea that, okay, you black, I'm black, give it to me for cheap, don't do that. If you can't afford it, just say you can't afford it. But also, when you walk into that white grocery store, that white mall, that white Foot Locker, that white Dillard's, that white Macy's, that white whatever, Parisians or whatever, when you walk in there, tell them the same thing. Say, man, I ain't got it. Unless y'all want to hook a brother up, go to them with that. Go to Macy's and say, man, which one of y'all gonna hook a brother up today? And then look over your shoulder. You'll see the security on their way. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. And then you'll be crying on Facebook because they kicked you out of Macy's. Listen, put an end to this, because I see this happening right now. Not with Nation Town Store or anything that I'm involved with, but I see that with multiple black establishments and businesses where people want valuable services and products for free or for some small amount of money. But then the very next day, those same people are bragging that they were the first to get a $1,000 video game system. Just so you can say you were the first. $1,000 just to play games. Just to play games. But when it comes to us, we could be selling the meaning of life. We could be selling you a vaccine to everything. Vaccine to every disease. How much you want for it? Man, give me $1,500. $1,500? Oh man. See, if you really cared about the people, you would give it to it for. Let's stop that. That's Klandemic thinking. That is Klandemic thinking. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. But just have that same energy with your enemy. Have that same energy with your enemy. Please, please quit that. Because as an entrepreneur, I've been living as an entrepreneur. I have not clocked in with a Caucasian company or anybody's company for going on 10 years. So when I see bad business practices, or whether it's from the consumer or from the proprietor, I cringe, especially when it's my people. Stop doing that. If you don't like the way that person, that brother or that sister is running their business, go somewhere else. I can't think of an industry where there is no competition. I can't think of an industry. This is a free market economy. Go somewhere else. Go to another brother or sister that's giving out the same thing. Well, I can't find it nowhere else. All right, well then support your brother and your sister. But don't sit up there huffing and puffing and then posting it on public outlets. Stop that. Just stop that. Stop that. Stop that. If you're not doing that with nobody else, with your enemy, don't do it with your brother or sister. If you feel like they did you wrong, deal with them directly. Deal with them directly. Please. That's on a serious note. All praises due to Allah. We got a couple more. It's going to get more and more serious. Now, this next one, we're going to be on maybe 10 more minutes. We're going to get up out of here. But this next one is very important. This I guarantee you suffer from Klandemic if this is something that you suffer from. In the book that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote called Our Savior Has Arrived, there's a chapter called The Two Worlds. The Two Worlds. Where the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is saying that there's only two worlds. If you leave one, you're automatically in the other. If you leave the other, you automatically in the one. And the words that he used to describe those two words, the names that he used, has really nothing to do with that religion, but it just represents that world. It was the Christian world and the Muslim world. But he's not talking about the religion. He's not talking about church versus masjid. By Christian world, he's talking about the white world. By the Islamic world, he's talking about the black world. So this symptom that we're about to get into is unity cancer. Unity Cancer. It's very important to know, black man, black woman, how cancer operates, how cancer actually forms in the human body. And a lot of times in our organizations, in our groups, there are cancers that form. Some groups call them hypocrites. Some, groups just call them snitches. Call them, turncoats. Call them stupid, whatever. But there's such thing as a unity cancer. And the worst part of the unity cancer is that they will just stick their toe in a black construct. And as soon as they get 30% dissatisfaction, they run out. But where do they run to? They always run straight. There is no other option. So they run right back to their enemy and fully indulge in that enemy. I want to show you something, because I want to show you, I can show you better than I can tell you. I want to show you the difference between normal cell growth, because right now as you're watching this, cells are living and dying in your body right now and reproducing themselves just like human beings in your body. You are a walking, talking planet. That's why in our supreme wisdom it says the original man is a planet. You are a walking, talking planet. But pay attention to this diagram. And I'm going to show you what I mean by unity cancer. Because first of all cells divide. But they divide for the sake of multiplication, which is to multiply themselves, duplicate themselves. Watch this. And I want you to pay attention between the difference between normal cell growth and cancer cell growth. But understand, we're not talking about cancer, the disease, but pay attention. Cancer is unregulated cell division. Now, this is normal cell division. See, it's duplicated itself. This is like propagating the faith, bringing somebody to join your group or organization. But notice how they're growing where they stand. They're multiplying where they stand. And they're equals. And they're constantly multiplying. This is normal cell growth. This is why you get ashy sometimes. Sometimes that's dead skin cells on the top of your skin from cell growth. But here comes the cancerous cell growth. And I want you to pay attention. Pay attention to this. Now the cell division is unregulated. It's not organized. But look at the cells. Remember how level they were and disciplined they were? Now, each new cell growth is trying to get bigger than the other. Trying to outdo the next. It's like they're climbing on top of each other. Trying to be bigger. The big eyes. Big eyes and little you. Look at it. So now you have cancer. Because you have unregulated, undisciplined cell growth. So you suffer from a Klandemic. Now listen, everybody ain't cut out for the Black Panthers. Everybody ain't cut out to be, in the Nation of Islam. Everybody ain't cut out to be in this organization or that organization. NAACP, Urban League. Everybody ain't cut out for that. But when you go in to see if you're cut out, like I always say, keep the same energy that you use with your enemy. Go in there, and if it doesn't work out for you, if you can't handle it, be a man, be a woman, and then just fall out and say, you know what, I love what they're doing, but I just can't handle it. But don't go in there expecting things that the world is not giving you. And nothing can get you out of that world. It's similar to what I said about black businesses. Don't expect something in that black business that you don't expect with a white business. Don't go into that black construct, a black organization. As soon as somebody look at you wrong, what? You mean to tell me nobody ever looked at you wrong in the club? And if they did, would you stop partying? If somebody looked at you, man, it's always a fight outside of a liquor store. So if you went in the liquor store and they looked at you wrong, in fact, every time I go into some of these businesses that are not ran by us, in the black community, they look at us wrong all day. Mistreat us all day. Follow us around the store. Hurry up and buy. Can I help you with something, sir? Can I help you with something, ma'am? Oh, you fit the description of somebody that stole something the other day, so we're going to have to ask you to leave. And you just start crying, and you go to the next one. You just say you won't go to that one anymore. So when you come into black constructs and black organizations, make sure you keep that same energy and not become unregulated cell growth and not become a cancer. You get a little disappointed. Okay, somebody might have did you wrong. Okay, if it's a religious construct, then guess what? It's a hospital. As I call the Nation of Islam, Muhammad Mosque, it's a hospital. We all sick. We've all been made sick. We all suffer from the Klandemic. How foolish would you be walking in a hospital and be surprised when you see somebody bleeding or coughing or sneezing? Where the hell else are they supposed to go? Come on, man. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it 100. So make sure you don't suffer from unity cancer. Now, this is the last one we're going to deal with, and we're going to get up out of here. But we also going to deal with the clearest and the simplest, what should I say? I guess you can call it, I won't call it vaccine, but the cure. Some of y'all might already know what the cure is. But we also going to hear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The last one I'm going to deal with is FBI. Do you suffer from FBI? What is FBI? FBI is first black itis. Do you sit around dreaming of the first black this, the first black that? I sure wish we could have the black this, and I wish they could give us a black this and a black that. Ain't nothing wrong with wanting black this and black that. But when you got this first black mentality, you see the first black princess in the United Kingdom and you think that's something special. Or even first black president. First of all, there's absolutely nothing, as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in the book Fall of America, there's nothing of any value on this earth that the Caucasian can say that they invented. Nothing that they can say that they started. They can't say they invented civilization, mathematics, economics, government. They didn't invent none of that. All of that was established trillions of years before the first peckerwood crawled out the cave. So it's erroneous. There's no such thing as a first black. Stop that. Stop it. Stop it. I posted it on Facebook. I am 100% unimpressed with that. Just stop doing that. If you're proud of that brother, that sister, for being included in some white construct and following white rules as a white token, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If I hear about a brother or sister is the first black student to graduate from some school, I'm happy that they got an education. And I pray that they use that education to help their self and their kind. But I'm not going to sit up and say, oh, the first black, oh, Lord, we done made it. Stop that. And stop letting them teach your children that kind of teaching. Stop that, man. I mean, think about that. We allow our oppressors, our 6,000-year-old oppressor, which is the equivalent of being 6 days old. This baby oppressor, we allow them to write our history. They tell us that you're not even making history unless you're getting close to me. This is what white people are telling you. Unless you get involved with my world, unless I allow you in my world and my social equality, you are not making history. And then that's disrespectful to the trillions of years of history that preceded that entire white man. So please, if you got first black itis, cut that out. First black this. There's nothing that they can say that they're If you want to intrigue me, show me the first white doctor. I don't know who that is, but I know he exists. Or she exists. Show me the first white doctor, because I know there was one. Maybe 12, 1,500 years ago, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, there was a first white doctor, a first white mathematician, a first white businessman. I know, there had to be. But you would have to go trillions of years into the history of the world to find the first black businessman, the first black scholar, the first black doctor, the first black teacher. You don't have to go back that far to find the first white. Let's have a White History Month where we all talk about the first white, this, and that. I would pay attention. I like to learn. I like to learn. I would like to know who the first white of all those things is, because it's impossible to find the first black. In fact, you would have to go to the first black man, period, to find the first black, and that is God, the Creator himself. So if you got first black-itis, aka FBI, you absolutely suffer from the Klandemic. So now let's, it can't just be all bad. It can't be all bad. Let's deal with some, because, and before we move on from the first black-itis, like I said, I can show you better than I can tell you. Everything that this country that you love so much comes from our history. These are the images that you see on your dollar. Why is it a pyramid? Have you ever seen a real pyramid in America? Why is it a pyramid on your dollar? Why does the Washington Monument sit like that? Come on, man. Mount Rushmore. Why does it sit like that? Why does the seal of the United States of America look like that? Why does the Washington Monument and the monument at the Vatican and the city, London, why does it look like that? What is the original obelisk? Where can it be found? So please, brothers and sisters, stop talking about the first black this, the first black that. So let's get into the solution. We're going to get up out of here. The solution, the vaccine, the cure to the Klandemic is actually the exact same as the cure or the best treatment for COVID-19. Social distancing, quarantine. So I'm going to leave you with a message that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave us 6 years ago. In 2015, he gave us the cure for the Klandemic. Please listen closely, and I'm going to leave you as I greeted you in the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
That's why we need to be separated from this enemy, so that the disease of having been a slave can be healed. Yeah. We need to be quarantined for a while to let God work on us. As long as you're with the enemy, you're going to continue to be the type of human being that he made you, because he made you into himself. Come out of her, my people, the scripture says. And even Dr. King in the last year of his life said, I can see why separation is necessary for a time. Come up with the measles, the mumps. You can't just walk around. They put a sign on your door in the old days, you're quarantined for, so your health can be restored. Elijah Muhammad said it's better to teach separation than to teach prayer. There's nothing more powerful than prayer, but praying in the house of the enemy and living the life of the enemy, you still victimized as a praying slave, a praying freak. So we can continue to pray, because prayer is the greatest force to restrain us from the doing of evil. But as long as you stay in the cesspool that made you sick, All your prayers will never make you righteous. We got to leave him and go into a land of our own where we can be healed and cleansed and made whole again, that God may use us for his glory. You know,
yes.
You know, I'm full. And the passion that I have is a part of my being at this time.
I was told to deliver this message.